One of the many benefits of the independent schools of South Florida is to provide programs that assist educators with their professional development needs. Our ISSF Committee Chair for Staff Development, Mr. Hank Langston from Gulliver Schools, will be presenting our first ISSF webinar on the teacher certification process. We hope you enjoy it.
Good morning. As you watch this seminar today, be sure that you watch or download the ISSFschools.org website for the step-by-step process. I will first cover the initial application process, followed by the renewal. We do have some teachers present at this, and if there are any questions during this seminar, please ask so that I can refer this information to you, because it might be very pertinent on helping you through this process. Number one, the initial application process. This is for all first-time educators. The first time they've applied for the certificate. You must get online and you go to the fldoe.org website. That'll bring you up to the application process, and you're going to follow that step by step. The main thing to remember as you go through the process, the only things that you need to submit to the Department of Education for the initial application process is: 1, filling out the application online. 2, once you complete that, at the very end you will receive an ID number, which is actually going to be your passcode. And anytime during the process of your application in Tallahassee, you're looking for information regarding your application, you can go back to the website, use your password, and it'll take you directly to the link for your application. But the only 3 things you have to remember right now to help you is filling out the application online, submitting a fee of $75, which will be paid by a credit card. And third is submitting official transcripts from the colleges that you attended. That's all you need to do and submit to the Florida Department of Education. After they receive the application and the fee, they will evaluate your application, and then they will send to you what they call the official statement of eligibility. That statement of eligibility will differ from every person. Every person will have their own individual statement. On that, it will date the day the application receives, and it will say you are now eligible for a temporary certificate in whatever field that you so desire to choose. It'll tell you actually the steps you need to do in order to actually receive that hard copy in your hand. On the bottom portion of that statement of eligibility, then further give you instructions on how to apply for and receive the 5-year certificate. So the only thing that you have to do today is to fill out the application, send your $75 or pay your $75 by credit card, and submit official transcripts. Don't do anything more than that until the State Department receives that, and the State Department then will send you a statement of eligibility telling you exactly what you need to do to receive the actual certificate. The second part is a renewal process. If you're renewing your professional certificate, you go through the same process. Get online with the Florida Department of Education, fill out the application, complete all the fields, and pay the $75. And then you will submit that to the Department of Education, and they will tell you where your application is. It's a very simple process on renewing. If you're renewing by in-service credit, make sure that all your credits have been received in Tallahassee. If you're renewing by either college credit or in-service credit, make sure all of those are received. If you are teaching a course at a university, you can use those as 3 credits. You can use your professional or your national board certification as 3 credits, or you can take the subject area test. But they will tell you, meaning Tallahassee, will tell you exactly what you need to do and the method of renewing. That's a very simple process also.
I have a
Yes,
question. Is it true that the Florida Department of Education is now paperless?
yes.
So we'd have to go online to find any information?
She was asking if the application now is paperless. Yes, everything is done electronically now.
It's much easier.
Okay. How long does it take to get the statement of eligibility usually?
Usually to get the statement of eligibility, it's a turnaround is very quickly. Usually in the process, if you send it off and your transcripts and everything are in Tallahassee, it shouldn't take any more than 2 weeks at the most to get your statement of eligibility back.
Where do we get the fingerprint information?
You can get the fingerprint information is online. They will list, there's a whole section when you scroll down on the application, there's a whole list of agencies throughout the state and throughout your county that actually are approved by the Department of Education to get your fingerprints done. So you will go there, they will pay the fee, and those are sent, of course, electronically directly to Tallahassee. But that is after you receive your statement of eligibility from the department.
Is it important to print the document at the end of the application that says that we've applied?
Yes, so she asked a very good question. Is it important to make copies of your application? Absolutely. Anytime you do anything online, when you complete it, there is a button there where it says print. So you're going to print a copy of your application, which will show your method of payment. And please keep that in a safe place, because if anything comes up, because things do get lost, then you have verification of that, because that's a receipt showing that you paid and everything.
Who signs off on the issuance request and the professional education competencies?
That is signed off by somebody in your school, somebody that's authorized to sign documents from your school. So I would assume it would probably be your head of school or your principal.
And if I'm applying for more than one subject area?
If you're applying for one subject area for the first time,
more than one.
Okay, it's $75 per subject area for the first time. So if you had, that would be $150. But on the renewal, you can have as many as 1 up to 5 or 10 different subject areas, and it's only one fee of $75 to renew all of your subjects.
So if my certification expired a few months ago, what do I need to do? How do I have to reapply as if it was an initial certification? Or?
Okay, let me go back. Let's say that you had a temporary certificate. This might be less confusing. And you let the temporary certificate expire. That's only good for 3 years. That's what they call a non-renewable. But if you let it expire, then you have to sit out a year completely. And if you let it sit out a year, then you can apply for a brand new 3-year temporary certificate, which will be good for another 3 years, but you'll be out for a year. Some schools will permit that, some won't, but just so be aware of that, because you will not be certified for 1 full year.
If I let the statement of eligibility expire?
No, not the statement, let your actual certificate.
Actual certificate. And if I want to go into a master's program, I have to have the certification active. It can't be during that 1 year that I have to sit out.
Right. And for the master's program, some schools require you to have a valid teaching certificate to get into a master's program. Some don't. It just requires on what the program is that you're going to go into.
The school.
Right. When I was talking about now going back to the renewal, if you do the renewal and then you let that expire, you will go through what they call a reinstatement, which is easier. The reinstatement would mean you're reinstating, obviously, your former 5-year professional certificate. To reinstate, they will tell you exactly what the steps you need to do, but there's an easier process on reinstatement than going through getting a temporary, then changing the temporary back to permanent. But the main thing I can stress with all of you, one thing I'm telling you is make sure that you watch your certificate expiration date very carefully. You don't want to let that certificate expire. Please do not let it expire. And if it's a temporary, make sure that you have completed all the requirements on that statement of eligibility. So at the end of those 3 years, you can then apply for the 5-year permanent certificate or the 5-year professional certificate. But that's the important thing, is do not let these certificates expire, whether they're temporary or the renewal. And another question that comes up is if you have an out-of-state valid certificate from any of the 50 states, all you need to do is apply again online, pay your $50, have the transcripts submitted from the schools that you attended, and a copy of the valid certificate from the state that you have the certificate from, whether it's New York or California, and that's all you need in order to get a Florida professional certificate. It's through reciprocity. The only step, and I'm not including that, would be fingerprinting, but they would tell you all that. It's a very easy process.
Question, are all professional development credits the same, CEUs and master points?
The only professional credits that can be used for the renewal of your professional license is approved in-service credit hours, and those are through different agencies that your schools may be associated with. The credits that you can take from some of the universities, the CEU credits are not acceptable. They have to be, in Florida that is, they only can be in-service credit hours.
And again, how early can someone apply to renew their certification?
You can actually apply 2 years out. They encourage you to apply a year, but you can apply 2 years out for the renewal of your professional certificate. And one other point is if you have a 3-year temporary certificate and any time during that 3-year period you have completed all the requirements for a 5-year certificate, you can apply for that 5-year certificate anytime. You don't have to wait until the end of those 3 years.
What happens if somebody makes an error on their application? Like a subject area is incorrect?
If they make an error on their application, they can go back in to the website bring up the application if possible, and if you cannot make the correction, then what you need to do is call directly to the Florida Department of Education and their telephone number, on the 800 numbers on there, and tell them what the error was. Because normally what you would do is if I applied for math, sent the application, and of course, when it's electronic, it's beginning to get processed, and then you realize that you made a mistake. Then what they're going to say, then in order to correct that, you're going to have to go back and reapply for, let's say it was English, which you really meant and you missed it. Then you would have to pay another $75 to get a statement of eligibility for English. So I'm glad you brought that point up, because it's very, very important that when you're filling out this application online that you look at it very carefully and make sure that everything is correct. One thing that I find quite often, there were errors on people, believe it or not, when they're putting their name down, they misspell their name. Sometimes they put their initials are incorrect. And if you do have a middle name, I encourage you to put your whole complete name, your first, middle, and last name, because for security purposes, it's better to have your entire name. And if not, if you just have initial, make sure that the initial is on there.
Question, how about test requirements?
The test requirements? At the present time, the test requirements for the state of Florida, you must take the subject area test, which obviously would be the subject that you're certified in or temporarily certified in. You must take the general knowledge, and you must take the professional test. Those are the 3 tests that they require now. I've told a lot of teachers, they say, can we go ahead and take all those tests now? And I said, the only thing I'd like to caution you about that is the general knowledge test actually covers materials that you attain basically during your freshman and sophomore year of undergraduate. They're just basic skills. The subject area also would cover what your major was. The only concern I have is with the professional, because when you're applying for the professional test, part of the requirements from the State Department to get that is they will list additional 15 hours of coursework that you must take, which would be curriculum development, diverse population, classroom management, etc. And all the information in those courses are actually on that professional test. So To take a test and pass it or fail it is quite expensive, particularly when you have to retake it because it's almost double the cost. So I would wait until the very end of my process before I took the professional, make that the last one.
Where can you get information or guides about the test?
You can do that online, and there is a place there on the application process where you can actually order these professional or test guides. And I think they're about $5 or $6. They go up a little bit. They're in the ballpark about $5 or $6. And it's a very simple guide, but what's nice about it is the first part of the test booklet are questions regarding subject area, general knowledge, or professional. The back part is actually the answers to the questions. So it gives you an idea of where you are, because I've had teachers that, for instance, that are certified in physics, that I encourage them to take math because there's so much math and physics. And so I said, so then you're getting double certification in physics and in math. Because I think they would be very logical. They would pass the math portion if they're in physics because there's so much related. So then I have a lot of English teachers take social science or vice versa because they may have minored in it. So there's a number of ways of looking at it. So when I'm talking to the teachers, I say, you have quite a few hours in this. I would maybe encourage them to do that.
And for subject area, do you have a time limit which you can add a subject area?
No. She asked, is there a time limit on when you can add a subject area? No, you can add the subject area anytime you want. You can add it to the temporary or the professional. So you have those options for either certificate. You can add another field if you'd like. One thing I did mention, and which is now a requirement from the state of Florida, is the ESE requirement, which is Exceptional Student Education. This is required of all teachers in the state of Florida, regardless if you're a superintendent, a principal, whatever. You must show evidence that you've had one semester of college credit in ESE training every 5-year cycle, or 20 master points. But that is only for the professional certificate. That's not for the temporary.
How many master plan points or credit hours do you have to renew your certification?
You need 120 master points, which is equivalent to 6 hours of college credit. If you teach, and we have some teachers that are teaching English or math, even at the community college or either the university, and if you're actually teaching a class, you can have the department chair from the university or college send a letter in on their letterhead from like the University of Miami stating that you have taught English 101, which is equivalent to 3 hours credit, and you will use those credits to renew your license as well. So there's a number of ways of renewing your license.
So basically, what are the benefits of being certified?
I think the most important benefit of being certified is you are showing not only yourself, but your school and your colleagues of being professional. It's like any profession. It's like holding a license to practice medicine or to practice law or whatever. And the benefit, I think, for holding teacher certification is if you move from Florida to Georgia, from Georgia to wherever, that application or that certification follows you wherever you go. If you have a valid license, you have reciprocity now with every other state. Just like I was telling you, if you're moving from New York here, how easy it is. But it just, it brings more credibility to yourself as a professional. And that's what you've worked for, and that's what you deserve. And that's what's important to the school also. So when you say, our teachers are certified, that stands out with your parents. When you think of what the parents are paying to send their children to school, and I think that's just an important issue. That you try to make your staff as professional as possible, and that's why we're doing what we're doing today.
Thank you so much, Heinrich.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Langston. That was wonderful. We hope you have all learned and obtained the information you need to continue with your certification process. Everything will be posted on the ISSFschools.org website. This is a free webinar, which you can see as many times as you'd like. And of course, you're free to contact him for further information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.